Welcome everyone to session number 229 of Kevin Reads A Course in Miracles. Today we will continue with chapter 29 entitled The Awakening, and we will concentrate on section 7, Roman numeral 7, entitled Seek Not Outside Yourself. Okay. And please remind yourselves, remember that the voice that Helen Schuckman heard, who she identified as Jesus, who identified itself as Jesus, right, was coming from that place of oneness, and not pointing fingers, saying, you're doing this wrong, do this right, or you're going to be in hell, and all. None of that. There's no condemnation to it. There's no guilt involved. And as a matter of fact, at one point in the text, Jesus says, let us look calmly. Right? Let us look at these things calmly now. Right? I think it was in reference to the laws of chaos, I'm not sure, where everybody's truth is different. First chaotic law. But anyway, this is not pointing a finger. It's just notice. This is, oh yeah, this is what I do. And if you'd like to change that, if you don't like the results, right, you don't like the experiences of living in form, thinking that there's something actually there for me, we can change. We can go to the mind and ask, help me to see correctly. All right. And just thank you for the opportunity to help me study and understand the Course's words on a deeper level and apply it in my life. And every day I have to rededicate myself to the truth, so to speak. Okay, that's enough about me. Section 7, seek not outside yourself. Paragraph 1, seek not outside yourself, for it will fail, and you will weep each time an idol falls. Heaven cannot be found where it is not, and there can be no place excepting there. Each idol that you worship when God calls will never answer in his place. There is no other answer you can substitute and find the happiness his answer brings. Seek not outside yourself, for all your pain comes simply from a futile search for what you want, insisting where it must be found. What if it is not there? Do you prefer that you be right or happy? Be glad that you are told where happiness abides, and seek no longer elsewhere. You will fail, but it is given you to know the truth, and not to seek for it outside yourself. Very short sentence, you will fail. If we seek outside the mind, in the world of form, which includes and starts with the body. All right, so seek not outside. You'll weep every time an idol falls. Sometimes we invest so much, all right, so much hope and desire and dreams and what we think is going to work, what we think is good for us, what we think we need. And then all of a sudden, one day, boom, it doesn't work. And you put so much effort into it, so much emotional effort into it, invested emotionally. And what keeps coming up for me when I hear this today is when my father passed, when my father died very suddenly. He was 52 years old, and he died very suddenly. No one was expecting it. All right? And I was young, 23, I think. All right, so that's a long time ago. All right? So we're talking 50 years ago. All right? And in the following months and years, I noticed everything was falling apart. Everything I thought was strong and something that could be relied on and something that could help me was disintegrating. And there came a time I broke down in tears. You know, there wasn't even someone to talk to, or someone who had even really cared. All right. So every time I read that, I think, seek not outside yourself. Right? My father was a symbol of strength and security and all that. And he was a very good person, very, very good person. Had so much integrity and intelligence. And, you know, poof. So there you are, on your own, uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear. Okay? He says, seek not outside yourself, for it will fail, and you'll weep each time an idol falls. So I'm not blaming myself for looking to my father for strength and direction and comfort and all that. All right? But I was heavily invested in that. And we had a good rapport. Right? Although at times he did refer to me as a gold mine of useless information. But that's his way of joking. All right? But when he was gone, that was it. You know, I had to start looking around. All right? He says, heaven cannot be found where it is not. And there can be no peace excepting there. There can be no peace except in heaven, except in reality. And reality is in the mind. Reality is not in this illusion, this experience of form. Okay? This is imagined reality. We think this is real. Don't deny yourself. Just keep noticing, oh yeah, I think this is real. Could you help me out with that? And you come to your mind. Right. But he says there is no peace excepting in the oneness. And your mind is part of the oneness. Right? Sentence 4. Each idol that you worship when God calls will never answer in his place. There is no other answer you can substitute and find the happiness his answer brings. Seek not outside yourself. All right. So this idea of God calling, it's all metaphor. All right. We, in one place in the text, God talks about the song that the Father sings to the Son and the Son sings to the Father. It's the same type of metaphor. It's that constant call and response, right? I fill you with love. I fill the universe with love. It's that call and response. It's ineffable. But he says nothing in this world can answer that call. Right? You are part of the oneness. Right? There is no other answer you can substitute and find the happiness that his answer brings. His answer is that you are part of the oneness. You are as innocent and as abundant and as infinite as the moment in which you appeared. Right? He says, for all your pain comes simply from a futile search for what you want, insisting where it must be found. So the pain comes for looking somewhere, a futile search for what you want, because it's never found outside the oneness. But we insist, no, it's here. This is it. If I get this, if I have that, if I consume this, if I feel that, I'll be happy. We insist, this is where the happiness is. Right? I mean, we build our lives around thoughts like that. Right? And just stuff that pops up when I read and talk about this. I don't know if I was in 8th grade or freshman high school or something. You read that poem that ends, the paths of glory lead but to the grave. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Is it too early to be depressed? But that's just one of the sentiments here. It's like you could look everywhere. All right? Seek not outside yourself. Don't insist on where, or just notice when I'm insisting where my happiness is found. All right? He says, what if it's not there? What happens? He says, geez, I spent all this time practicing baseball, trying to be a catcher for the New York Yankees. Then I blew out my arm. What happened? Playing stickball. Again, we used to call steam, throwing too fast. So what if it's not there? What happens? And I'm insisting, no, this is where it is. I want to be a baseball player. This is what if that doesn't come about? What happens? Right? What if it's not there? Do you prefer that you be right or happy? Okay. No, it's over here. And he says, you're insisting that you're right. Wouldn't you rather be happy? Be glad that you are told where happiness abides. Be happy that you're told that your happiness is in the mind. It's in realizing the oneness. And seek no longer elsewhere. You will fail. Right? It's like there's no doubt about it. Right? It's like the gamblers used to say, sell the house and the car, send it all in. It's a lock. You will fail. But it is given you to know the truth. Right? We're able to know the truth. And not to seek for it outside ourselves. It's given to everyone. Everyone has that part of the mind that remembers their connection to the oneness. All right? So it's given us to know the truth and not to seek for it outside ourselves. So it's the ego that needs to be right. Paragraph 2. No one who comes here but must still have hope, some lingering illusion, or some dream that there is something outside of himself that will bring happiness and peace to him. If everything is in him, this cannot be so. And therefore, by his coming, he denies the truth about himself and seeks for something more than everything, as if a part of it was separated off and found where all the rest of it is not. This is the purpose he bestows upon the body, that it seek for what he lacks and give him what would make himself complete. And thus he wanders aimlessly about in search of something that he cannot find, believing that he is what he is not. I mean, that's quite powerful. Right? He says, everyone who comes here into form of any kind, right, still has hope that there's something outside himself that will bring happiness. Right? There's something out there that will help me. There's something out there that will make me happy. Something out there that will make me feel good. But he says, but if everything is in you, speaking about that abstract mind that is you, he says, if everything is there, this cannot be so, right? You can't find stuff outside. And therefore, by his coming, he denies the truth about himself. So, by saying, yeah, I believe I'm separated from the oneness, and here I am, I'm Kevin. All right. And by insisting on that, I'm denying the truth about myself, which is that I am part of the oneness. I am part of the great expanse, right? The all-pervading consciousness, or abstract. And therefore, by his coming, he denies the truth about himself and seeks for something more than everything. That's why Jesus refers to it as the tiny mad idea. He says, how silly, you forgot to laugh at that. Could I have more than everything? All right, sounds like a question from a third grader. Could I have more than everything? As if a part of it were separated off and found where all the rest is not. This is the purpose he bestows upon the body. So this is the purpose I give to the body, is to go out and find what I think is missing. When I go out and find what is more than everything. All right? So that's the purpose you give to the body, that it seek for what he lacks. Because once I believe I'm separated from the oneness, I have this feeling I'm missing something. Something's missing here. I have to go find it. Right? And give him what would make him complete. Right? I don't want to make fun of any Valentine's cards or any lovers. But that idea that, you complete me. Okay, that's the investment that's seeking outside yourself. Let's put it that way. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings here, but it's just a matter of just look. Yeah, just look. Yeah, this is what I do. All right. So the purpose he bestows, that's the purpose you put upon the body. That it seek for what he lacks and give him what would make him complete. And thus he wanders aimlessly about in search of something that he cannot find, believing that he is what he is not. It perfectly describes those years after my father passed. Just wandering aimlessly in search of something that I couldn't find. Right? And believing that I was this and that and not part of the oneness. Believing I was something that I wasn't. Right? Right. And I must be vigilant for those moments when I still believe that I'm something that I'm not. Something that has to defend itself or whatever. And thus he wanders aimlessly about. All right, paragraph 3. The lingering illusion will impel him to seek out 1,000 idols and to seek beyond them for 1,000 more, and each will fail him, all excepting one, for he will die, and does not understand the idol that he seeks is but his death. Its form appears to be outside himself, yet does he seek to kill God's Son within and prove that he is victor over him. This is the purpose every idol has. For this the role that is assigned to it, and this the role that cannot be fulfilled. Right? There can be no victory over God's Son. There cannot be. You cannot prove that you are something other than the emanation of the primal source. Right? You can't prove that you are something other than a part of the oneness, right? Part of the great expanse. Right? You can't prove that. But that's what we're trying to do out here, especially with this. This will be the final idol to fail because it will die. And we think, oh yeah, because I died, that means I lived. I was separate. All right, and each idol will fail him except one, right? The body, for he will die. And we don't understand that the idol he seeks is but his death. So that idol that I seek, let's look at it metaphorically, poetically. The idol that I seek is that something other than oneness, the separation. And Jesus always equates that with death. He says there's no life outside of heaven. And this is the embodiment of that idea. The body is the embodiment of the idea of separation. And it only has so much time to hang out. All right? Its form appears to be outside itself, outside myself. Yet does he seek to kill God's Son within. Right? Yes, so I seek to prove that I'm separate from the oneness. And I'm victorious over that. Right? So I become such avid, we like to watch contests of all kinds, where there's a winner and a loser, there's a victor and a vanquished. I used to like that word, vanquished. Right? Because we're invested in the contest, that struggle. That's why people become such avid fans of sport. All right? I mean, hey, I like sports. Always did. Right? After a while, you can look at it with a different perspective. And you don't have to get so caught up in it. You can enjoy it, but you realize, well, wait a second. This is what's happening on a deeper level. It doesn't ruin anything for you. It's just, you don't have to get in a fight in the stands with anybody. All right. So this is the purpose, that victory over the self, the victory over God, because there's no separation. So this is the purpose that every idol has, every substitute for the oneness. It's the purpose every idol has, is the victory. Right? If I become wealthy, I'm victorious. I still like to try that. No, just kidding. So this is the purpose every idol has. For this, the role that is assigned to it. And this, the role that cannot be fulfilled. Right? You cannot be victorious over the true self. You cannot prove that you're separated from the mind of God, because you're not. Even though the mind is very powerful, and these imaginary existences that we have are very powerful, right? They are ultimately, they can't succeed. All right? Ultimately, they can't prove that you are separated from the oneness, from the great expanse. Paragraph 4. Whenever you attempt to reach a goal in which the body's betterment is cast as a major beneficiary, you try to bring about your death. For you believe that you can suffer lack, and lack is death. To sacrifice is to give up, and thus to be without, and to have suffered loss. And by this giving up is life renounced. Seek not outside yourself. The search implies you are not whole within, and fear to look upon your devastation, but prefer to seek outside yourself for what you are. All right. So he says, when you attempt to reach a goal in which the body's betterment is cast, all right, that's the major beneficiary, the body's betterment. That's my goal. He says, you try to bring about your death. Read that metaphorically. I mean, also, in form, you're going to pass sooner or later. But metaphorically, Jesus is saying you're reinforcing the idea of separation. Okay? For you believe you could suffer lack. You believe there's something missing. You can be something other than part of the wholeness. If you're not part of the wholeness, there's a piece missing. So you feel like there's something lacking. Right. And so he says that to sacrifice is to give up and to be without, and to have suffered loss. And by this giving up is life renounced. Right? So he's saying, you're sacrificing your oneness. You're giving it up. And by doing this, you're renouncing your true self. You're renouncing your true life. Right? Then he says once again, seek not outside yourself. He says the search implies that you are not whole within, and you fear to look upon your devastation, but prefer to seek outside yourself for what you are. So just by this constant searching for what will make me feel whole, make me feel better, make me feel happy, comfortable, pleasure, whatever. He says the search implies that you're not whole within, that there's something missing. And that you fear to look inside because you think you're going to see such devastation. I don't want to look at myself, like that song, I'm a creep. I'm afraid to look inside. Right? I'm a weirdo. What am I doing here? I'm afraid to look at that. Right? So I prefer to look outside. It's easy to ignore that and look outside. Look outside yourself for what you are. So in paragraph 5, he says, idols fall because they have no life. And what is lifeless is a sign of death. You came to die, and what would you expect but to perceive the signs of death you seek? No sadness, no suffering proclaim a message other than an idol found that represents a parody of life, which, in its lifelessness, is really death, conceived as real and given living form. Yet each must fail and crumble and decay, because a form of death cannot be life, and what is sacrificed cannot be whole. Right, so all these things that we want, that we look, we try to get, and everything, so many things. All right, he says they're all going to fail eventually because they have no life. Right, they're all part of the illusion. And what is lifeless is a sign of death. Right, it's just constantly driving that idea home. What is lifeless is a sign that you believe you're outside the mind of God. Right. It's you believe you're outside the oneness. Right. He says you popped into this dream. Right. You came to die. And what would you expect to perceive except signs of death? This is what else do you expect? He says, no sadness and no suffering proclaim a message other than an idol found that represented a parody of life, which in its lifelessness is really death. So all these things, everything we look for, eventually will pass. All things must pass. And that includes happy things. You know, things that we think will make us happy. It all passes. Right? Because it's a parody. Right? Well, it's a parody. It's an imitation of life, of real life. It's an imitation of the oneness. Yet each must fail and crumble and decay, because a form of death cannot be life, and what is sacrificed cannot be whole. Right. Remember, look at this calmly. Right. I'm not trying to spiral anyone into an abyss or anything. You just look at it calmly and realize that there is hope, and ultimately you will realize the truth of who you really are, the truth of where your happiness is. You will realize it. Excuse me. Paragraph 6. All idols of this world were made to keep the truth within from being known to you, and to maintain allegiance to the dream that you must find what is outside yourself to be complete and happy. It is vain to worship idols in the hope of peace. God dwells within, and your completion lies in Him. No idol takes His place. Look not to idols. Do not seek outside yourself. Right. In case You haven't heard it the first few times he said it. But he says, everything in the world, everything that we think is so important, everything that we think we want and need, he said it's all made. The purpose of all these things is to keep the truth from being known. And the truth is that you are part of the oneness. You never left the oneness. It is always there, just waiting for us to remove the blocks to its awareness. So all the idols of the world are made to keep the truth from being known and to maintain allegiance. The purpose of these things, of the whole world, is to maintain allegiance to the thought of separation. All right? Maintain allegiance to the dream that you must find what is outside yourself to be complete and happy. All right? I have to go outside my mind to find what will make me complete and happy. And then he says, it's futile. It's in vain. It is vain to worship idols in the hope of peace. Right? Then it simply says, God dwells within. The knowledge of who you are dwells within. And now this is the language of A Course in Miracles. I realize, especially in this day and age, that people have such a tough time with the word God. Right? People have taken it and run with it and misused it for centuries. Right? We're just using these terms. These are symbols. This idea of God, it's not some being that meddles in the comings and goings of other beings. Right? It's a concept of oneness, right? Of eternity, of abundance, of bliss. Right? It's the primal source. And that dwells within, not in the body, not in the world. It's in the mind. And your completion lies in Him. Your completion lies in that oneness. You are complete in that oneness. There is no lack. There is only eternal abundance. No idol takes His place. All right? Look not to idols. Do not seek outside yourself. Paragraph 7. Let us forget the purpose of the world the past has given it. For otherwise, the future will be like the past, and but a series of depressing dreams in which all idols fail you, one by one, and you see death and disappointment everywhere. So this is what he's saying. Just put down all your preconceived notions of what the world is all about. Let's forget the purpose of this world, which is to keep my identity. But just let it go for a second. Let's forget the purpose of the world, which is to maintain separation, to keep my individual identity. Because if we don't let it go for a moment, the future is going to be the same as the past. All right? And that was one of the feelings that I had as a very young man in those days. I remember writing on a piece of paper in some bar somewhere, you know, just, it was SOS AOA, which was the same old stuff all over again. All right? Every day is like the last until the future becomes the past. All right? And that's depressive. That's the state that I was in all those years ago. Right? And this is what Jesus is saying. If you're constantly looking outside, right, there's going to be those depressive dreams, an endless circle of despair, right? A series of depressing dreams in which all idols fail you one by one. And you see death and disappointment everywhere. That was a part of my journey. Right. So he says, let's not forget the purpose of the world that the past has given it. Right. That past, I always equate that term in the Course with the idea of I separated from God somewhere in the past. Right? So that gives the purpose to everything in the world. For otherwise, he says, let us forget the purpose of the world that the past has given it. All right? Otherwise, the future will be like the past. Just a series of depressing dreams. All right? But then he says, in paragraph 8, he says, to change all this and open up a road of hope and of release in what appeared to be an endless circle of despair, you need but to decide that you do not know the purpose of the world. You give it goals it does not have, and thus you decide what it is for. You try to see in it a place of idols found outside yourself, with power to make complete what is within by splitting what you are between the two. Right? You choose your dreams, for they are what you wish, perceived as if it had been given you. Your idols do what you would have them do, and have the power that you ascribe to them. And you perceive them vainly in the dream, because you want their power as your own. So, to change all these dreams, these repetitions of failing and losing and things not working, these depressive dreams, he says, to open up a road of hope, he says, you need but to decide you do not know the purpose of the world. Right? You need to decide, I don't know what I'm doing here. Right? Let go of the roles that we assume. You know, assume the role of big brother, of leader, of friend, of whatever. You know, you're the teacher, you're the manager, just let it go. You can have it back. but just let it go for a moment. And realize you don't really know the purpose of the world. And you realize that I'm the one that gives the world all the goals that it has. Right? And I decide what it is for. Right? It's been my interpretation of the world all along. He says, let that go for a while. Just let it go. Because you try to see in it a place of idols found outside yourself. We're always scurrying from one thing to the next, trying to achieve, trying to accomplish, trying to do. We're always got to do something. So you try to see in it a place of idols outside yourself. And we try to see in the world a power to make it complete. To make complete what is within. Right? I'm trying to make myself complete because I have that feeling of lack. He says, but you do it by splitting yourself in two, outside, inside. He says, you choose your dreams, for they are what you wish. That secret wish to be separated. And I perceive the world as if it's being done to me. Well, this is the hand I was dealt. You play the cards that you were given. All that. So not my fault. I'm here, but it's not my fault. So we perceive it as if it was given to me. This is my lot in life. Okay? He says, your idols do what you would have them do on a very deep level. Everything in the world is proving to you you're separated because that's what you want. And it doesn't make you a bad person, it just makes you uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear. If you admit to it. And there's no disgrace in realizing, yes, I do believe I'm separated from the oneness. There's no disgrace in that. There's no guilt. There's no shame. It's just, it should be an aha moment. Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. Well, I want to change that. And that's why Jesus goes, look, be happy that you could change that. All right? Be happy that you could change it. All right? He says, your idols do what you would have them do and have the power you ascribe to them. I think, if I get this, I'll get the power that I ascribe to it. Whatever it is, money, food, sex, jobs, sports, everything. If I have that, I'll be on top of the world, Ma. And you pursue them vainly. All right? Which, the second time you use that word, it's not going to work. We pursue them vainly because you want their power as your own. Whatever, all those things I mentioned, there's a certain power that I perceive in them. And that's what I want. That's what I want. I want to be, very, very wealthy. I want to be a great lover. I want to be a great athlete. I want to be the strongest guy. I want to be the best looking guy. on and on. On and on. Because I want the power as my own. Because deep down inside I think I'm powerless. Deep down, because I believe I separated from the abundant power, so to speak, the everything. I'm lacking something, so I have to get a supplement. Right? All these idols are supplements. So I dream about all these things. You perceive them vainly in the dream, in the experience of form here. Right? Once again, don't deny that I believe this dream. Just look at analyze the dream, as Freud and his followers would have us do. Right? Carl Jung, analyze the things in the dream. Unemotionally, don't get all bent out of shape. Just note, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. And this is what it leads to. I don't want that anymore. I want to be happy. I don't want to be right. I want to be happy. He says, so where are dreams? Where do you dream except in a mind that's asleep? Remember, this chapter is the awakening. So he goes, all this happens in a mind that's asleep. And can a dream succeed in making real the picture it projects outside itself? Save time, my brother. Learn what time is for. And speed the end of idols in a world made sad and sick by seeing idols there. Your holy mind is altar unto God, and where he is, no idols can abide. The fear of God is but the fear of loss of idols. It is not the fear of loss of your identity, but you have made of your reality an idol, which you must protect against the light of truth. And all the world becomes the means by which this idol can be saved. Salvation thus appears to threaten life and offer death. Another wonderful paragraph. He says, can you make the dreams that you have? All right. Can you make that picture real outside the dream? All right. And I like what he says, is save time, my brother. Save time, my brother. Learn what time is for. So time, the experience in form, what is it for? He says, well, if you give it the purpose of proving you're separated, that's the way it's going to be. But if we give time the purpose of remembering our connection to the oneness, that's what he means by saving time. Learn what time is for. You can use the experiences here in time to bring you to salvation, which is the release from the belief in separation. Right? All these heavily laden Christian terms, sometimes you got to wade through them. Right? Like salvation, you know what I mean? Salvation is just a release from the belief in separation. You're saved from the drudgery of the world of form. Right? And there's a section that says salvation without sacrifice. Right? No need to suffer. All you need to do is accept the fact that you never left. And that's what time is for, to practice that in every instance. I always love that saying when somebody goes, he knows what time it is. Jesus knows what time it is. He says, learn what time is for, my brother. And speed the end of idols in a world made sad and sick by seeing idols there. So speed the end of all these idols. Right? In a world that's just sad and sick. And as I get older, and I hear it echoed in people that I know that are my age, how the world, it seems to be crazier. The world is crazier. Everybody's just this and that. And that's what Jesus is talking about. You start to notice a lot of things that you thought were going to work didn't work. A lot of institutions you thought were going to work didn't work. A lot of people you trusted can't be trusted. And a lot of people run around crazy, saying nutty things, saying scary things, just out and out crazy things. And people start believing them. And the whole experience becomes, oh, wow, what is going on here? So this is, he says, use the time here to realize that this is not the truth. This is a world made sick and sad by seeing substitutes for oneness, by seeing the idols outside there. And he said, then he reinforces the idea. He says, your holy mind is an altar unto God. We use these lofty terms that some people have a lot of problems with, like altars and God and things like that. But it's just trying to tell you, your mind is an altar to the oneness. It's a place where the oneness is realized. Right? The use of the word altar is just to help set up that idea of profundity. It's so profound. Right? It's awesome in its grandeur and glory. That's your mind. And where that awareness is, there can't be any idols. They can't. They just can't stand up to it. They just fade away in the glory that is your mind. All right? And he says the fear of God, the fear of this oneness, the fear of the truth of who you are, is just the fear of all the loss of all this, the fear of all the loss of idols, of everything that we believe and form, including our individuality, our very being, we think. He says that's just the fear. That's what we think is the fear of God. It's not the fear. It is not the fear of loss of your reality. Right? So you're not worried about losing the reality of who you really are. But you've made yourself into something you're not. You've made your reality an idol. I'm Kevin. Kevin the All-Star Catcher. I'm Kevin the Ice Skater. All those things. That's who I am. No, it's not. But we're afraid to lose that. You have made of your reality an idol, which you must protect against the light of truth. So if the truth dawns on me, Kevin the All-Star Catcher doesn't mean anything anymore. It fades. It just fades away. Right. And there's a part of me I have to keep that. All right. And don't berate yourself for these things. Just notice. Just look calmly. Oh yeah, that's what I do. I'm afraid to lose my identity, what I think is my identity. Right? You're not going to lose anything. It's like Jesus said a few weeks ago. Can you lose yourself by being found? This is when you find your true self, you can't be lost. You can't be all alone in the supermarket. Right? But he says, but you've made of your reality an idol, which you think you have to protect against the truth. So you won't look, you won't go to your mind. And so all the world becomes the means by which the idol can be saved. So I use the world so I don't have to look in my mind. Right? Salvation thus appears to threaten life and offer death. So the idea of the truth arising in my awareness is very threatening. And it becomes interpreted as death. It's a threat to who I really am. My ego says, no, you're going to lose all this. Don't be crazy. But then he says in paragraph 10, it is not so. All right, salvation doesn't threaten anything. The release from the belief in separation, we also call it the atonement principle, the idea that you are as innocent as the moment in which you were created. All right, that doesn't, it's not a threat. Salvation thus appears to threaten life and offer death. It is not so. Paragraph 10. Salvation seeks to prove there is no death and only life exists. The sacrifice of death is nothing lost. An idol cannot take the place of God. Let him remind you of his love for you, and do not seek to drown his voice in chants of deep despair to idols of yourself. Seek not outside your Father for your hope, for hope of happiness is not despair. All right? Salvation proves, it seeks to prove there is no death, only life exists. That's what the idea of your innocence is out to prove. You never left the mind of God. There is no death. There is only life. There is only the oneness, the existence in the oneness. So he says, so to let this whole world of form go, he says, nothing's lost. He says, there's no sacrifice there. Right? Because an idol cannot take the place of God. Right? And once again, it's very beautiful poetry, very powerful metaphors. He says, let him remind you of his love and do not seek to drown his voice. Don't drown his voice in chants of deep despair to idols of yourself. Right? These chants of deep despair. We keep chugging along in the world, pushing that rock up the hill. Seek not outside your Father for your hope. All right? Come to your mind. That's where your hope is. For hope of happiness is not despair. You will not find despair in their right mind. Only in this silly world. Only in the silly world. All right. Saw a t-shirt that said I could have been a monk, but I couldn't take the chance. Oh well, I amuse myself. So salvation seeks to prove that there is no death. And once again, as he says, keep saying, seek not outside yourself. And then at the end, he says, seek not outside your Father. See what he did there? You, yourself, and your Father are one. There is no separation. All right. All righty then. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to our next session. All right. Bye now.